Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. It is a pleasure to have everyone here. My topic for tonight is Yule Blessings, and I have with me Kitty and Purple to talk about that topic. Kitty, thank you for coming. How you doing?
I'm all right, ups and downs as we all have. I appreciate you having me on for this one because I can actually speak on it a bit considering I was Wiccan for a good decade or so. And I still, even, as an atheist, I still celebrate a few of the traditions, like, because it's fun, and it's
hmm
that, like, anything to really brighten up, the winter months, so to speak.
And Purple, as always, it is great to have you here. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing okay. I'm kind of run down, but
Mm. Um, Art Against Ignorance and Purple put together a song. Purple wrote the lyrics and Art helped with the music. And Art Against Ignorance is working right now, but said that he might be able to pop in for a bit, or if not, he might be able to pop into the chat. And what I was planning to do is go ahead and play the whole song about Yule that they made. And then afterward, we will talk about the Yule holiday and what it means and how it came to be and all kinds of stuff like that. So here we go.
Of my long journey from Catholic to atheist, Art Against Ignorance has brought this to life as something far more incredible than I could have ever imagined. Also, my original version always felt somewhat unfinished. So again, Art Against Ignorance came in to save it with adding the final verse. He's done several more fantastic songs, so you really should subscribe to his channel. Naturally, the link is in the description below.
And it is in the description to this video as well.
Oh, blessed be fine Christian folk, we mean you no dismay. We pagans simply ask you, give us back our holiday. Jesus was being born in spring, so celebrate in May. Kindly give us back our winter holiday, holiday. Kindly give us back our winter holiday. Most common practices from our celebrations you did steal. Imitation, sincere flattery, we're glad they do appeal. But credit our traditions, don't act like such a heel. Kindly give us back our winter holiday, holiday. Kindly give us back our winter holiday. The Yule tree we decorated long before of Christ you'd heard. Acting like you invented it is really quite absurd. Not knowing where it comes from makes you look like such a nerd. Kindly give us back our winter holiday, holiday. Kindly give us back our winter holiday. We turn the wheel of life all year, even in the time of snow. And centuries before you we adorned with mistletoe. Your arrogance annoys us most, it really has to go. Kindly give us back our winter holiday, holiday. Kindly give us back our winter holiday. You can keep the image of Santa Claus, for him we have no need. Invented by commercialism in the spirit of greed. Parents tell this lie to their children, it is most strange indeed. Kindly give us back our winter holiday, holiday. Kindly give us back our winter holiday. 'Tis our observance of the Yuletide you Christians do deface. Trying to wedge in Jesus simply looks so out of place. You're not even knowing when he was born, seems like a disgrace. Kindly give us back our winter holiday, holiday. Kindly give us back our winter holiday.
Thank you for visiting my channel. Be sure to subscribe to Art Against Ignorance. The link is in the description box.
Okay, that was absolutely lovely. That was beautiful.
Oh yeah, that's a banger. That song slaps. Like I was vibing. It was good.
Well, I'm glad you appreciate it. Glad that
Who-
people enjoy it.
Who sang that?
That was Art singing it.
Okay, Art did all of the parts and stacked them.
Yeah, I only did the lyrics. Art did everything else.
Okay,
Wow.
okay.
And I did
Impressive.
the little video slideshow.
I have tried to do that on a video or two where I've had Robin sing several different parts and I've stacked them. But Robin is not consistent on tempo. And so it's really hard to stack them and not and get them right. I think maybe the secret is to have Robin sing with while listening to the accompaniment, and that way you stay with the same tempo every time.
Yeah.
Because Robin
I-
was doing it all a cappella.
Yeah, I haven't
It's
tried
hard.
anything that advanced with the sound, but I would think that I would be hopeless to try and do anything like that without the instrumental part.
Stacking sound is easy. You just put each one on a different line on in your editing software.
No, but like singing a cappella is just
Yeah.
difficult
Right.
in general. And
Mhm.
so if you like even me, like I'm not the best singer. Like my vocal cords got damaged when I was a child. It was funny. I got chickenpox twice, and the second time I actually had them down my throat and all in like my windpipe, my larynx. Like it was bad. Like I was having trouble breathing and everything, and so my voice changed after that. And like I struggle. Like I have an easier time either singing higher but softer, or I can put a little more power behind like my lower register. But I don't do a lot of singing anymore, but on days that I go get my nails done with my sister, we'll be playing songs in the car and I'll let loose my throat. My voice will definitely feel it afterwards, but you know, it's sister bonding time.
Okay, Purple, I'm going to have you get into the history of Yule, but first I'm going to give just a real quick update. With 47% of the vote counted in the Georgia Senate race, Warnock is leading 54.3 to Walker's 45.7%.
Oh,
Okay,
thank
it's
the
a
gods.
significant percentage at least.
That the fact that it's even 45 to 54 though is fucking horrifying.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
But I'll take it. Like,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
like
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, let's get into it. Purple, tell us a little bit about the history of Yule. Where did it start, and what's the tradition about?
Well, Christmas, as we know it in the U.S., is really kind of a big combination of traditions from all over the world. It's kind of the nature of the U.S. We, the great American melting pot thing and all. But I go back to my mother's side is Finnish, so the Nordic roots of it, and it used to be that in the winters they would hang offerings out on the trees around the village. Offerings of food that were supposed to be for the forest spirits, but of course it had the practical benefit of it kept animals close to the village, so it kept hunting plentiful through the winter. So that was really where the start of the Christmas tree came from, of hanging decorations on the trees.
Okay.
But Yule was an observation of the winter solstice, the longest night of the year. So it actually originally was the New Year's, because then the days start getting longer. The new year is being born.
Ah, okay. Do you know how far back that history goes? About when is it known when people started celebrating Yule?
I think that's widely debated. I don't think anybody can actually put a date on it.
Yeah, I can see that.
But it definitely was something that the people of Scandinavia were celebrating well before anyone in Europe had ever seen a Bible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no question about that. What did you think about the guy in my video who said that Yule began in Australia?
Yeah, that one really caught me. I'm hoping he just read things too quick and he meant Austria, because he was talking about the Krampus, which actually comes from Germanic folklore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, is Krampus part of Yule, or is that a separate thing that kind of got mixed in when Yule got adopted by the Germanic peoples, or how did that work?
As far as I can tell, that did come in sometime later. I'm not quite sure when. But that was part of it. Came in with Santa Claus, with the Father Christmas thing. So that was I don't want to say more recent tradition, because it probably still goes back 500 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I just did a quick little search.
Google
and
search?
Yule is attested early in the history of the Germanic peoples. In a Gothic language calendar of the 5th to 6th century, it appears, so going back to the 5th or 6th century, so that would well predate, the more Christianized, Christmas, obviously, but also the Father Christmas and Krampus, because originally, with the whole Krampus thing, that did get kind of tacked on a bit later, as just pagan folklore. But Santa brought gifts, essentially, like Father Christmas brought gifts to the good kids, and he would essentially leave a marker to let Krampus know who the bad kids were, and then they would be taken and punished, and some of them would not return. And that ties back to just early human history of children going missing, all the way back to Lilith in the Bible was said to steal babies from cribs. So there's always been some type of dark child stealing element. They just kind of rolled that in with Krampus as a counterpart to the dark counterpart to the light that is Father Christmas. But Father Christmas was the one passing judgment, so in a way, kind of like the Abrahamic God, where it's just I'm going to mark you as good enough and you as not good enough, and I'm going to delegate. I'll do the good thing, but I'm going to delegate the punishment to the bad guy. It's like when the doctor, you go to a pediatrician, the doctor's not the one that's going to give you the vaccine. He's going to make the nurse do it, because the doctor doesn't want to be the bad guy.
Yeah, well, actually, my father's side is Polish, and they don't have the Krampus, but in the Slavic countries, they have a character called Black Peter, which is the same thing. He's basically the opposite of Santa Claus, that he will take the naughty children and put them in a burlap sack and beat them with switches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things that I was chuckling over in watching that town hall meeting where these Christians were protesting a Yule celebration, is they were saying, Krampus beats children with switches. And doesn't your Bible tell you to beat children with rods? I mean, how is that any different? I just found it the height of hypocrisy that almost everything that they complained about, they said that Krampus does, is something that they are either told to do or their God does in their own Bibles.
Oh, and
Yeah,
fun fact, Father Christmas, like it would be modest gifts like dried oranges or candied nuts or things of that nature. It wasn't really until, the Saint Nicholas like kind of got tacked on to the Father Christmas that, it started to be more like toys. And like there's a lot of history there, which is fascinating, like just from like an anthropology standpoint, like how beliefs mold and shape the culture and how the culture molds and shapes like the folklore and beliefs as it goes along.
Art Against
well,
Ignorance is in the chat. He says, "Hi guys, how are you? I'm at work doing
oh, hey,
deliveries.
Art.
I'm listening." Thanks, Art, for coming. And for anyone who missed the video at the beginning, I'm going to play it again at the end of the stream. So if you were not here at the beginning and didn't get to hear the song that Purple and Art made together, just stay all the way to the end to let's see, it's about 45 minutes from now, and I'll play it again.
Okay, yeah, as far as the Father Christmas thing, one of the things that actually kind of annoys me is people need to get their character races straight.
Okay.
Is the helpers that made the toys for the children are not elves. In Nordic folklore, elves are at best, totally ambivalent to humans, but are often tricksters.
Mm-hmm.
So the ones that were helping Father Christmas were the woodland gnomes.
Okay.
Because, yeah, especially in the Nordic countries, the gnomes are known for like repairing things when no one is looking and leaving little gifts for the children.
Similar to like brownie folklore and some of the other like, smaller fae where they, might like they, people that believed in fairies, like they thought like they might have a house spirit or something, or a house fae, that it would basically be a brownie that would kind of clean up the house and take care of things, so long as you kept them happy. If you made them unhappy, then they were fae, and fae are not omnibenevolent. Some fae are very, very not nice.
When I joined Brownie Scouts as a child, at the beginning of our book was this story about the brownies and about how this family was telling their kids that brownies are very helpful little people. They clean your house and they do all kinds of neat stuff. And so these kids decide that they're going to be the brownies, and they get up while their parents are still asleep, and they clean the house and make breakfast and stuff. And about the third day they do it, their parents get up early and catch them, and they ask, "Where are the brownies?" And it's us. We are the brownies. And the message to the kids was that you could be brownies too. And I have to wonder if they still have that story in the beginning of the Brownie Handbook.
See, I started with Girl Scouts. I was never a Brownie Scout, so I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
So in the spirit of the season, though, the winter edition of Red Bull, I am trying my hardest to make sure, because with Red Bull, they'll come out with editions for summer and winter. And if they sell really well, then they'll make them a permanent flavor. I'm trying to do my part to make this one a permanent flavor, because it's become my second favorite. Because before it was the coconut was my number one and the one I normally drink. And then the peach edition, which was a summer edition a few years back, was my number two. But this is now my number two.
And what flavor is that?
It is fig apple. It is lightly sweet, lightly tart, and it doesn't taste like an energy drink, but it's got a bunch of caffeine, and I'm an unrepentant caffeine addict, so it's delicious.
Yeah, Sloth Girl was annoyed when we lived in Michigan. They had an orange edition, and apparently they discontinued that one. Can't find it anywhere.
That's too bad. Kitty, when you would celebrate Yule as a Wiccan, what are some of the traditions that you had?
Okay, so a lot of them are actually very similar to Christmas traditions, like decorating a tree, having a big family gathering with food and gifts and such. But for the more witchy aspects of things, I treated it as my New Year, and how in like some cultures they'll have New Year's traditions to bring like prosperity in the coming new year. I would take a green candle, which color and candle magic, like green is a symbol of wealth and prosperity. And I would, carve runes into it and basically consecrate it with things like moon water and rosemary and other herbs that are meant to essentially, ward off bad things and draw in good things. And I had like a little altar that I would set up, and I would burn the candle until it was completely burned out. But it was essentially, you know, um, channeling my will. Back when I believed that this stuff was a thing, I would channel my will for, a healthy, happy, and prosperous new year for me and mine, into the candle, while like, and that's the consecration part, like drawing the runes on it is part of that, and then dripping moon water, which moon water, has it's very multi-used in practitioner magic that Wiccans practice. And it's made essentially by leaving water out to soak up the energy of the moon. And I know this sounds really way out there, as far as beliefs go. But then when you compare it to like the transubstantiation, believing that you're eating the actual body and blood of someone who's been dead 2,000 years, it's not quite so bad. Thinking, hey, maybe there's some magic in the moon. And herbs and colors and candles can bring about things. And if you just wish for something really hard, which, I mean, it's in a way no different than prayer. Like you would have deities, and it is polytheistic. So you would have different deities that you would call upon for different things. Fertility deities if you're trying to get pregnant, or like more motherly, matronly deities, or earth type deities if you want to have healthy child, like after you've given birth, like after you get past the fertility thing, then there was a god for that. Or if you wanted wealth or protection, there were different deities that you would essentially send prayer to. And it's really not that different. There's just a little bit extra frill. And it's funny, like I found it pretty easy to go from what I was raised in to Wicca, because there is that ceremonial aspect of it, because I was raised Catholic, and Catholic has a lot of ritual and ceremony like Catholicism does. So it really didn't seem too far of a stretch, just kind of a sidestep where it's like, okay, well, Yahweh is a god in a pantheon of other gods. It was basically, I was like, yeah, that god might exist, but is not the only one. And actually, like, I was that way for a while, and then I was like, well, if there's a god, really, like any god dreamed up by man would just be a facet of whatever, because like who could understand a god? So it was kind of like a amorphous thing that I couldn't really explain or understand. And you just pray to different aspects, so that every god was it was kind of like a more pantheistic, like all like multi-god in one. I would call it like the giant diamond, multifaceted. And then, I got away from all of that. But every year I would make sure to essentially burn the candle and say my prayers and do my spells, which are essentially just, prayers that you're invoking the deity most aligned with what you're trying to do, and adding your own will, because that's the difference between doing magic and just praying. You might still pray to a deity, but doing magic is basically taking your own will and trying to make it manifest while invoking, your deity of choice for that particular thing. So rather than asking to be rewarded by said God. It was more asking the God to help, grant you more strength while you're channeling this outward. I don't know if that's making much sense, but rather than just asking the God to do all the work, it's no, my will is what is going to bring this forth. I'm just asking the deity to basically lend me some of their strength while I channel my will into the universe to make this manifest, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that was kind of where like the magic aspect of it came. It was just prayer with extra steps. But yeah, I would make sure every year, to burn my candle, and I would spend months getting everything ready because, it was the new year. So, getting all of my herbs and finding the right candle and picking what runes I want, writing a spell that I wanted to use for that year. And I put a lot of effort into it each year because I wanted things to at least stay the same, but get better, like hopefully. Because when I was a kid, we had times where we were doing great, and then there were times when we weren't doing so great, like when my dad got hurt, because my mom was made disabled when I was in kindergarten. So my dad was the primary breadwinner. Then when my dad was in a bad accident and was out of work for a while, things were a lot tighter. I was in high school and working 3 jobs and going to school. So like it was just let's try to better the situation. So I was throwing my everything into it.
That's
Purple book.
interesting. The way you were saying about like a giant diamond, that was actually, as a pagan, the view of gods I had come to was that there was actually more or less one god, but it was a gemstone with a billion facets.
That was
So,
exactly.
Yeah,
that was it.
any one person could only see maybe a couple dozen facets. They could never get a real picture of what the whole thing was.
And each facet had its own separate thing. It was like, a 1,000 million billion deities all rolled up into one, and then you would just pray to whatever facet, it was that would best suit, your purposes. But yeah, like that was kind of where I came from with like the polytheism thing, was the multifaceted, diamond idea of God as basically, whatever force created the universe, like every deity ever dreamed up by man was just part of that, because obviously they had some sort of divine inspiration that they had been touched by that facet of the diamond, so to speak. But yeah, like that was how it was for me. And I don't, you're the only other Wiccan, but then I was a solitary practitioner, so I didn't talk with a lot of other Wiccans, but you're the only one that I know of that thought of it that way too.
Well,
So,
to be clear, I never considered myself Wiccan. I was just a solitary eclectic pagan.
all right, fair, but still, like, pagan, that had that view of like the gemstone thing. Yeah, no, Wicca, I think, is a lovely religion because, I mean, for one, like the core tenet of do what ye will, harm none, really speaks to my libertarian sensibilities. Because I am, in a lot of ways, I am very libertarian, and I believe that it's your body, your life, your choice to do what you want, as long as you're not harming others. So like that being the core tenet of you can do whatever you want, just don't hurt anybody. Like I love that. Plus, respect for nature and the female empowerment of it, considering it is a more like goddess focused religion. Like it's not only goddesses, but like, the goddess does like iconography does play a big role in Wicca, and my angsty teenage heart loved that too.
Every time I stayed in a hotel, I always wanted to replace the Bibles with Wicca, a guide for a solitary practitioner.
That's cool. Actually, if you ask the hotel if you could leave it there, they really can't refuse you unless they take the Bibles out.
I thought that would just be up to the hotel manager. And
It is to a certain degree, but there have been some cases about, do they have the right to subject this to the public? And the answer is, as long as I don't know. I can't remember exactly what the rules are on it, but I do know that when one Supreme Court case was decided on it, a lot of them took the Bibles out because they didn't want to agree to take anything else in. But that's why a lot of places have Book of Mormon too, because if you take one, you have to take the other. But on the other hand, it is a private business. It's a lot more difficult to enforce, and so it's more likely that they'll just ignore it.
Oh, so real quick, this has nothing to do with the topic, but I wanted to bring it to people's attention. Blair White is being sued because one of the trans women that she went after and defamed, to a criminal degree, implying manslaughter, that she drove a person to suicide even though they were still alive. There is a lawsuit that is going to be filed against her for all of the defamation she's done against, people in the trans community, which it makes me sick that a trans woman would sell out her own community and go after so many trans women. But the name of the person is Eli Ehrlich. She was part of she was a target of Blair recently, and she's already retained legal counsel. And I believe they're doing a fundraiser to raise the funds needed for the investigative thing. And I saw that earlier today, so I wanted to bring it up. I think Cyrus mentioned it as well in one of his recent videos, but definitely look into it and see and follow it, because fuck Blair White.
Okay. I have one comment that I had up earlier, but I starred it because it reminds me of a joke that I saw recently that I thought was very funny. So I thought I'd bring it back and tell my joke. Sandy said, I think I just may do my old winter solstice ceremony this year. I have lots of stuff to toss into the fire, lots of intent to set. And that reminded me of a joke I saw recently where it said, if you want to keep your kids under control for Christmas, take a bunch of empty boxes and wrap them in Christmas paper. And if your kid acts up, throw one of them into the fire. And someone responded, why would you throw one of your kids into the fire?
Oh, goodness. Another thing, it's not so much a Wiccan tradition, but I see it in the spirit of, because, Yule is a time to, be with your family and having a feast, sitting around a fire, spending time with your loved ones is a part of that. So family game night, trying to do that on Christmas, or watching bad Christmas movies and just making fun of the Hallmark movies that are predictable and paint by number cliche and so silly.
Well, that was always the way I observed the Yule. A big thing for me is a fire ritual, which I really miss having a fireplace. So now I have to settle for just candles.
Mm-hmm.
But just reflecting on how people lived 1,000 years ago before they had electric lights or central heating, but how important it was to keep the flame going.
Yeah.
So my ritual is to keep a flame going from sunset to sunrise.
Okay.
And that's the celebration I do is just, have some friends over and basically just make trays of all sorts of hors d'oeuvres and stay up all night playing games and snacking.
Well, yeah, because food is a big thing. Eating, it is kind of having a feast. It was it had Thanksgiving in it before Thanksgiving, because it was, a time where you would basically just eat a lot. You would have a large feast with all of your, friends and families. So kind of gorging yourself on food and spending quality time with loved ones was a big part of it.
Well, it also marked the halfway point between the final harvest and when things would start turning green again.
Right,
So,
which is what I was going to bring up, that a big part of the reason for the feasting was the harvest has been in for a month now. It's going to start going bad if you don't eat it up. And it's going to be a month before you have anything fresh again. So you have this huge feast, eat everything you've got before it goes bad. And you're not going to eat again for several weeks because it's going to be a while before you have any fresh food coming up.
Yeah, you basically put on a little bit of extra weight, intentionally. Like we complain in our modern age about those, pounds we put on in, November, December, but like that could mean the difference between life and death back then when we didn't have modern agricultural processes or like food on demand.
Refrigerators.
That too.
Also, body fat is natural insulation. It'll keep you a little bit warmer through the winter.
And having a meal of like some of like the fresher things, it's better than the things that will last a while, like root vegetables, like potatoes or like turnips, things that you might be able to make a stew out of. And then you could have like dried meats or salted meats that would keep throughout the winter, but you're not going to have any like fresh veggies or anything to go with it. So it was lean times where you're eating dried meats and maybe some breads and because grain would keep like flour is like once we had the technology to mill flour, like that helped a lot to reduce the number of people that would die of starvation in those leaner months, because while it's not necessarily the healthiest, you can survive solely on bread. It's not great, but it can keep you from starvation. So dried meats and just dried foods in general, plus bread, and that's what gets you through.
Purple. Do you have a set day every year that you do your celebration, or do you, is it always on the winter solstice, or do you vary
I
it?
always do it on the winter solstice because that's the longest night of the year.
Okay.
So that's the whole thing, is to keep a light burning through the longest night of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would do like the two celebrations because my family full of Christians, so we would do the Christmas celebrations, and then I would, essentially I would do some of my stuff on, actual like Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, like mostly the celebrating with family, having, food and playing games, watching movies, like spending the family time with them on those days. But then like my rituals were saved for the solstice. So I celebrated both, but that was because I was the only pagan in the family. So it was kind of, I was on my own for that part. But at least because there are so many Christian traditions that do overlap with Yule traditions, it's not that hard to still celebrate Yule while also celebrating Christmas.
Well, it's also kind of handy that, I get to have my own celebration, which, when I was raising kids, it was a whole family thing, with the kids and my partner there, and it was kind of nice to just be able to do my celebration, and then that's not getting stepped on by the celebrations of any of the other relatives.
Okay, I'm afraid I have a bit of bad news. Currently 59% of the vote is in, and Warnock's lead has been cut. He is now at 50.3% to Walker's 49.7%. So, Kitty, if you've got any more spells in you, we could use one right now.
I will try. But honestly, it's just kind of like willing it into the universe at this point, because I wouldn't have anything prepared. Like my little kitty apothecary has not been stocked in a long time. I mean, I guess I could go full kitchen witch and just go dig around in the pantry and see what we got.
Okay, Hugh Mongoose is trying to start something here. He has asked, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Most controversial question of Christmas.
Die Hard isn't, Gremlins is.
Okay.
Honestly, I would say any movie that, has Christmas happening during it can be considered one. But what tips it over the scale to say, sure, I will call it a Christmas movie is the fact that so many people watch it on Christmas. So, I mean, culturally, it has become a Christmas movie, even if it wasn't originally meant to be. Originally, it was just a movie that happened to take place around Christmas. But, same thing with like Home Alone. Home Alone is definitely a Christmas movie. Um, and same thing with Gremlins, because like, again, they take place during Christmas, and they are watched by many on Christmas. So that does it.
Well,
Okay.
I think it's whether or not the holiday is really central to the plot. And in Die Hard could have happened at any time of the year. It just happens to be in December.
That's a good
Gremlins,
point.
on the other hand, the thing that instigates the whole thing is that the father is looking for a unique Christmas gift for his son, and he gets the Magua.
Well, no, and I totally hear you. Like I said, but at this point in time, like, it has become one just out of the fact that culturally it is watched by many there.
I know. Honestly, I don't really care that much about it either way. I'm enjoying.
And honestly, Bree has a good point. Like, they were having a Christmas party when the events of Die Hard happened. So, I mean,
Okay, Bree has a really good question for you. Did either of you believe that all species had witches?
I believed that at the very least, hominid species, like, going back to early hunter gatherer man, had some form of like witch. But as far as like cats, dogs, bugs, no, because I believed more like, that in order to like tap into that like part of the universe, so to speak, you had to have that higher reasoning, like sapience and sentience.
That makes sense.
I
Purple.
guess I hadn't thought about the question really in that term, but I probably would have gone that there was at least the potential for any species.
Okay.
And in answer to Johnny Repine's question, no, because I was no longer practicing. Because at that point, like by the time Trump came along, I was fully atheist and had given up the last vestiges of my belief in woo. Which, funny enough, my belief in spirits was the last thing to go. Like, I stopped believing in gods, but still held out that there might be like, ghosts or spirits and things along that line. That was the last thing to go, and that went before Trump, several years before Trump, in fact. So no, I did not take part in the cursed Trump event.
Okay. I didn't
Yeah, I
see
would
that
say the
question. I
same
missed
thing,
that.
that
Sorry.
the bit about ghosts and spirits is really the thing that's held on the most. And that's even I had some personal experiences that I still lack good explanations for.
Same.
So, I won't conclusively say there are ghosts, but there are things that I can't get any more data about to really make a decision.
And you can have ghosts and spirits without the need for a god. So, like, you could be an atheist and still theoretically believe in ghosts because, those things are
they're
not
not
mutually
gods.
exclusive.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's like, is there some remnant of our consciousness, like what makes us us, that, exists like in the ether, so to speak, after we leave? Or is it just maybe like, strong emotions tied to a place where something
Yeah.
good or bad happened? Because like I had even had some times where I had like a psychometry type experiences. And psychometry is a psychic thing where you touch an object and kind of get feelings about like where it's been, who's had it. And there were times that like I'd go to somebody's house and like I would feel a presence there, and having never been there before, like I just intuitively knew that the owner was conservative and died in the house. I don't know how I knew that, because it was completely out of left field. Like, I had no idea, but like the previous owner, I was a teenager and I was there for a sleepover. Lots of other like spooky, like type things. And not just me, but like people close to me have also had those types of either like premonition type things or like ghosty type things. So it was one of those things, like that was the last thing to go. And I'm with Purple. Like what she said, I don't believe that they exist, but I'm not willing to say that there's absolutely no chance of them existing. Same thing with like, sentient like aliens. Like, I mean, I have more like, just law of averages, it's more likely that aliens exist somewhere else in the galaxy, more so than ghosts and spirits. But I can't say for sure no, they don't exist, but I don't have an active belief in them any longer.
Holy Spackle says, I kind of died when you said he was a conservative.
Well, but here's the thing. I didn't even really know like liberal conservative. Like the reason why I say he was like conservative was more like old fashioned, because one of my friends, it was a co-ed sleepover. It was supervised, but one of my friends decided to just get changed there in front of somebody. Like she still had on her like boy shorts and bra, but like I got this like strong like feeling like at that, and that's when I was like, whoa, whatever spirits here did not like you taking your top off. So, in front of the other people here. So like that was, it wasn't like actually like conservative liberal. I was using it more in the sense of like old fashioned and prudish.
Okay.
Yeah, Maya, I would say that, if there are spirits, something that survives the body's death, there really isn't any need for a god, even for some kind of an afterlife. I tended to believe in reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't see any need for a god for whatever the energy of a human being, going and finding a new body to inhabit when this one wears out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible that there's an afterlife with no need of a god, because it doesn't have to be a reward punishment thing. Like,
Right.
I mean, my belief structure when I was pagan, I believed in the Summerland, which was basically, and I tied it into reincarnation, where it's like the Summerland was where souls went to be, to wait to be reincarnated, and that you would just reincarnate so that your soul could grow through those experiences. And then eventually you'd reach a point where you didn't need to be reincarnated any longer because you'd had the experiences, you've had like the growth. And I also believe that like negative spirits tied into that too, where, if you were like a truly dark like person, an evil person, then you didn't get into the Summerland, which was not about reward or punishment. It's just like evil couldn't get there, like not like true evil. And so those spirits would then just be kind of like forced to roam the earth, and eventually they would kind of lose, like have an erosion where they would lose everything that was them until there's nothing but just the anger, the rage, and the evil that was left behind. In fact, I don't know if anyone's watched any of Mike Flanagan's shows like Haunting of Hill House or Haunting of Bly Manor, but especially Bly Manor, like he touches on like the erosion of spirits really well. And it kind of tied into like what I believed back then, where you'll have ghosts that, when someone first dies, it is like a carbon copy of them. Like they might not even know that they're dead, so they're continuing to do things like they normally would, but they're no longer alive. But then, the ghosts of spirits that were there longer, like the more time goes on, the more erosion goes in, so they start to lose their faces, and then eventually there's nothing really left of them that was human any longer.
We have a really good question in the chat that I've been kind of waiting to bring up here. I'm trying to water down the Jesus birthday vibe at my house without disrespecting my believing family members. Is there a rival pantheon or story that I can get little figurines for to put up?
Well, you can actually use whatever you want. Actually, I'm glad you brought that one up because I saw that go by. And
Yeah, I started because I wanted to actually talk about it.
okay, over the course of 4 relationships in 25 years, I helped raise 9 kids in batches. So, uh, with one woman I was with, her middle daughter had really attached to me. And our first Christmas together, she insisted that instead of the angel that normally went on top of the tree, she insisted we had to use my Triceratops nightlight. And that's especially like the tree decorations. I think it means so much more when it's personalized to the people in the house, when you have things that represent the people you're living with.
Absolutely. We just recently got our Christmas tree, and when we went to have them cut off the bottom, so that it can draw up water, we kept the little like puck of it, and it's a little thick. So I'm gonna have my dad cut it in half and drill some holes in it, and I'm gonna let Richard paint on them and turn them into his own little personalized ornaments.
Yeah, and a thing you'll find with a lot of pagan faiths is about wards, which is usually like doing a ritual to kind of attach a protective spirit to something. So I had made a ward for each of the girls, and I had built them out of Lego Bionicle parts, so they each had a ward watching over their bed at night.
We have a ceramic winter village. Now it's not it's not God related in any way, but it does kind of water down the Jesus vibe by having just a modern day village of decorations. They're just houses with Christmas decorations, and they've got snow on them. So there's nothing that any believing family members would feel disrespected by, because it's just showing a more modern Christmas celebration.
Yeah, I like just, winter themed things just in general, snowflakes and like holly and mistletoe and things that come from the natural world. Even like some forest animals, like someone had mentioned, black bears, or sorry, brie, polar bears, penguins, cardinal snowmen. Absolutely. Like I love, just animals and nature being incorporated into holiday decorations.
Yeah, I guess for me growing up, the holiday wasn't as Jesus focused as it was for most people, because I grew up in as Catholics, we were the minority in a heavily Jewish community. So most of my friends were celebrating Hanukkah. And just because we had so many, and even a couple of my foster brothers were Jewish, so we had to kind of incorporate that. And, we had like dreidels and Star of David hanging on the Christmas tree.
That makes sense. Just kind of throw in a few things from all kinds of different traditions. I would say candles too, because candles certainly aren't offensive to believers, and they are definitely also a symbol of Yule and of other winter celebrations.
And I mean, you can always go like the commercialized route too, where you can put up like the Grinch or, other like holiday decorations. Like even Santa is not really Christian, it's capitalist. So, it's a safe bet if you want a non-religious thing. As much as they want to try to claim him, Santa is as he is now, is a capitalist invention. Yeah, thanks, Brie. My dad used to like my family, while they were religious, like it was like religious light. We didn't go to church regularly. It was kind of a couple times a month, maybe. The only thing is that my mom forced me to go through confirmation, and that was kind of a sticking point for a while in our relationship. Because that's when, you're seen as an adult in the eyes of the church, and it's supposed to be your choice. And I wasn't given that option because I had already stepped away from Catholicism at that time and was a practicing Wiccan. But like other than that, like there wasn't a lot of, you know, really like heavy-handed, at least in my immediate family of my parents. Like my dad was super supportive of me exploring other religions and becoming Wiccan. He bought me my first books on Wicca. He's also more of a deist, so he was raised Catholic, but he believes in God, but not really in Christianity. Whereas my mom was the staunch Catholic for a long time, you know, promised the priest that married her that she would confirm her kids in, you know, the Catholic Church, as you do. So like religion wasn't a huge deal in the family, and we didn't even usually go to church for Christmas. Again, like it was very like laid back, you know, it was like Catholic light. It wasn't super like fundamentalist. So I was fortunate in that respect. And so it's like, yeah, we might have the angel on top of the tree, but a lot of the Christmas decorations were things like little figurines that we got of our favorite Disney characters. And my mom still has them to this day, like Jasmine and Aladdin and Ariel and so on, or ornaments that we made in Girl Scouts or things like that. So really the angel on top of the tree was the only like religious iconography of the tree. And then my dad had built my mom this giant like shadow box thing where her little animatronics would go, and so it'd be like Mickey in a Santa costume playing the trumpet, and a little train that would go through like and wind around, and it had like basically fluff to be like fake snow. And so my dad would basically, you know, assemble it and put all the stuff inside and then put the plexiglass on the front, and that would be set up in front of the house every year. So it was a little decoration, but again, it was all like secular stuff. There wasn't really anything religious-y in there. It was just cute things like Winnie the Pooh and Mickey Mouse, but Christmas themed, you know, like Santa themed, I guess.
Yeah, I see several people talking about the popcorn chains.
I know, that was brought up, but I thought, I haven't thought about that in years. We used to do that all the time as a kid. My mom was really picky that every string had to be 2 popcorn, then 1 cranberry, then 2 popcorn, then 1 cranberry, and you're never allowed to vary from that pattern, which probably is why I never did it as an adult. But yeah, they did look very pretty. They
Well,
were
I
very
always
pretty.
did the popcorn and the cranberry strings, and then also just like any of the half boxes of cereal that had gone kind of stale, string those up.
Okay.
And that's what we would use to decorate the outside trees again, because that was then something for the birds and squirrels. And
Mhm.
going back to the original tradition of putting food offerings out for the woodland spirits.
Maya says she's never done the popcorn string thing. It's really quite simple. You just take a needle and thread and just put popcorn on the string. The one thing you do have to be kind of careful of is when you do the cranberries, the needle comes through kind of hard, and I've jabbed myself with the needle many
Yeah.
times on the cranberries.
Oh, I don't want to know. Like just needle jabs in general can be a little bit rough on your delicate fingers. I think I only did the popcorn thing once, and it was when I was at like a youth group thing, like one winter when I was a teenager, but we never did them at our tree at home. That tree just, had the lights and the hodgepodge of ornaments, like nothing, like there were no 2 of the same ornament unless it was something like both my sister and I made them in Girl Scouts. So like there was one with my name on it and one with hers. So they were the same, but not the exact same.
And
Okay, if you're
harmonica.
trying to string things with a needle, the easiest way to do it without stabbing yourself is hold the needle in a pair of pliers and hold it stationary, like, hold the pliers down on the edge of the table so the needle's off the edge, and then whatever you're trying to string, you bring onto the needle. If you're not moving the needle, you've got much less chance of stabbing yourself with it.
I did do the construction paper rings and the paper snowflakes. That was something that we did do.
Mm-hmm. And a couple people have mentioned, giving the popcorn and cranberries to the birds, and that's another thing I'd forgotten about. When Christmas was over and we took the tree down, we would take the strings of popcorn and cranberries and go throw them in the backyard for the birds.
Yeah, of course, with the cereal, one of the things I found out was, a lot of the cereal made for kids, like Fruit Loops, is very colorful.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently the birds do not digest the food dyes, and you wind up with Technicolor bird poop all over your car.
Oh, goodness. Oh, that's funny.
Oh, we did do advent calendars every year. My mom would get us one, and honestly, my son still gets them because they make Lego ones where you get like
Mm.
different little Lego stuff, and then you have like by the end of it, you have enough to do a little scene out of Lego. The
Yep.
one he's working on is a Guardians of the Galaxy one right now. And they'll have like Lego City, Lego Friends, different and Marvel and Harry Potter. So there's tons of different Lego sets that they have advent calendars for now. And my sister got one for my son. He's so excited every morning. He runs out and he goes straight to that thing to open it up.
hmm I remember having the traditional advent calendars that each one had a little piece of candy behind it.
Yeah, the like, bargain bin chocolate. Like those were the ones that I got. Like it tastes like wax, but you ate it anyway and you enjoyed it because like it was Christmas and it was a treat you got a little piece of every day.
Leanne asked, did the birdies eat the popcorn on or off the thread? And the answer is we would put it out on the thread and they would peck at it, and that would break the cranberry or the popcorn up, and it would fall off the thread in the process.
The other thing that when I was doing those to put outside, I always made sure to use 100% cotton thread, not to use any polyester threads. Because that was completely biodegradable, and even if the birds ate a bit of the cotton thread, it was something they could digest.
Johnny Rapine says lots of mini figs with the Lego Advent calendars, hoping to pick up a few on clearance.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same.
No.
In January, I'll be looking for some of those on clearance.
My son is obsessed with Lego. So like that's the majority of what he's getting this year, but some of the sets are kind of expensive. So it's we're telling him now, look, you might not have as many presents under the tree, but you're getting older, so that means you're getting bigger gifts that are, more expensive. So there will be fewer presents, but they are of higher value,
I'm not 12 yet.
No, you're not 12 yet.
Sandy says,
I'm not 9 yet.
oh, that wouldn't have been allowed in the house. I don't think Baptists like the idea of Advent much, but seriously, I haven't done much Christmas stuff since the mid-'80s. That really surprises me. Now, having been in Presbyterian churches and Baptist churches, yes, it's true that the Baptists never really talked all that much about Advent, whereas the Presbyterians really did. It was a big deal. This is the first Sunday of Advent. This is the second Sunday of Advent. And they had certain things that they would do for each Sunday of Advent. But we still called it Advent season, even when I was a Baptist. So I'm a little surprised at that comment. My favorite thing this time of year, and obviously you can't do this with believing family members because it is extremely disrespectful to their beliefs. But then again, I don't think silly beliefs really deserve any respect. I have no problem with respecting the person, but I don't think I have to respect their ideas, especially when their ideas are nonsense. And I have just seen so much that when you take the two different versions of the Christmas story in the Gospels, the Luke version and the Matthew version, and you put them together, they just don't work. I was talking about this with a believer, and every excuse that he came up with for why they would have done it the way you would have to do it in order to make both of the gospel stories work makes the Holy Family look really stupid.
I think that was one of the things that led me to the idea that Jesus was a composite character. That there were
Yes,
actually,
exactly.
dozens of these wandering preachers going around, and just when somebody finally wrote it all down, they thought it made a better story to say it was all one guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so Leanne had said something that reminds me. One thing we would do, like in Girl Scouts, to make ornaments, we would take and put peanut butter on an open pine cone and then like roll it in birdseed, and then we'd have it as an ornament on the tree. And then at the end of Christmas, it would get put outside so that the birds could, it was a bird feeder / ornament.
Yeah, I heard that too, Leanne, and we used to do that, in Girl Scouts. But then, then there was a lot of information that came out that this was actually bad for the birds because they would get the peanut butter would get stuck in their beaks.
I
Plus,
had
I
not heard
mean,
about them having a problem with peanut butter, because I do remember, making the birdseed balls held together with peanut butter.
See,
Mhm.
like, I would think that with like the artificial like preservatives and stuff that are put in modern peanut butters to make them more shelf stable, that like birds have very sensitive bodies. Like they are very sensitive to things that they eat and breathe in, like their lungs especially. So yeah, like I could I could see like, but yeah, I can also see how it would stick because it is like very sticky. I mean, if you
Mhm.
can get it to make a horse move its mouth, if you can use peanut butter sticking to the roof of a horse's mouth to get him to like move it and look like he's talking, then I can't even imagine a little beak trying to get through it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, especially because their tongues really don't work the same way for them to clean it off.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Is there anything else about the Yule season, the Yule celebration that we haven't covered already that either of you would like to discuss?
I mean, I can't really think of much. I mean, we touched on like the history of where it came from and some of the traditions,
Mhm.
and how, I mean, it predates, the
Christmas.
Christian encroachment of the area, like, because yeah, I mean, like it goes way, way, way back. And I do like Purple Song of "Can we have our holiday back, please?"
Yeah, I'm gonna play that again as soon as we're all finished. I have some more bad news.
Oh.
With 75% of the vote in, it is dead even, 50.0 to 50.0.
And yes, Harry Potter did have a Yule Ball, but also you're talking about like witches and wizards, so it kind of makes sense.
What's
Hi.
a Yule Ball? Is that
It's
like an
basically a
ornament?
dance. No, it's a
Oh,
dance.
ball. Oh, that kind of
Yeah.
ball. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I forgot about that. I mean, I forgot that ball was for Yule.
Well, a lot of the, historically, a lot of the Christmas traditions do wind up coming from the Nordic people, because, of course, the Vikings brought that all over Europe. And actually, even back to like the 10th century, Vikings had trading routes established all the way to the Middle East. That's why they found a Viking grave with a sword made from Damascus steel, dated to around 1100.
Mm-hmm. I was looking up when Christmas was first celebrated on December 25th, and I was surprised it was as far back as it was. It said that Constantine first declared Christmas to be December 21st in 375 AD. Now, he didn't do it because he thought Jesus was born that day. It was exactly as you said earlier. It was to compete with the winter solstice holidays.
Yeah, it was laid over the Feast of Saturnalia.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a lot easier to, convert people if you basically, conform their current beliefs to what you're trying to sell to them. Similar to, what they did with Halloween, and like where Halloween even came from. Like originally it was Samhain, and it was, October 31st, and they came in, and the church came in and said, okay, we're going to make November 1st All Saints Day, or Hallowmas. So the night before, Hallowmas became known as All Hallows Eve, which eventually became Halloween. And it was, instead of remembering your ancestors and leaving offerings to them, it was remember the saints. So it was similar but different.
Yeah, well, also you have a much harder fight getting people to accept the things you want them to do if you come in and say that they're not allowed to have their big parties anymore.
That's also true. And Saturnalia was a time for feasting and debauchery and orgies. Not even kidding. Like it was it was a very Dionysus time. Like you drink, you eat, you fuck. Like that was how you celebrated Saturnalia.
Yeah, well, if everybody's having excessive amounts of wine, of course, inhibitions are going to be a bit lower and people are going to do things they might not normally do.
So they just lean into it and they're like, all right, fine, Saturnalia orgy, let's do it.
We have an absolutely wonderful comment from That Being Said. I think we need to change his name to Well Said. Whatever you believe or not, I hope this season everyone here has people and things to give them emotional warmth and cold dearth of this time.
Hear, hear.
Yes.
Actually, my birthday is coming up. So for all the other December-born people, I feel your pain of getting the birthmas gift, the combination birthday Christmas gift that you get, because you have a birthday in the spring, the summer, even the fall, really any other time you'll get separate gifts. But when your birthday is 6 days before Christmas, yeah, not so much.
Yeah, you do get shortchanged with that.
Peyton says, let's make Halloween great again.
Halloween is my vibe, year round. And my son loves Halloween. He loves, buying spooky decorations and carving pumpkins and skeletons. And that is my crotch goblin, my offspring. And yep. I love him dearly.
I have been seeing more and more that people aren't really taking Halloween decorations down so much as they're kind of moving them into Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
That 12-foot skeletons with Christmas lights have become a common sight.
I love it. And, there's a film for that. It's Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah,
you literally are just combining
a lot, yes.
You're combining those two things.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. I love it so much. If I ever get remarried, it will be on Halloween. Because I love Halloween, and so if I do ever get remarried, that will be the day.
And I will offer a practical decorating tip for anyone who has cats, probably dogs too, but especially cats. I put a plant hook to a ceiling joist so that I could actually tether the Christmas tree to the ceiling so the cats couldn't knock it over anymore.
Cool.
Of course, once I did that, Tasha, the cat I had at the time, took to sleeping in the branches in the middle of the tree.
Oh, no.
That's adorable.
Okay, I'm going to spend the last few minutes playing the song again that Purple and Art made. So before we go to the song, is there anything else that either one of you didn't get a chance to say yet that they wanted to mention about Yule?
Honestly, I think that atheists just in general should join with the pagans in trying to take back Yule from the Christians, and because again, there's a lot of overlap. So there's the commercial secular Christmas, but we could also just have a, secular Yule and do the same things, but by using different framing and understanding where those traditions came from, as a way to kind of show Christians that they're not the be all and end all in this country, that they're not the only ones that have holidays, and they weren't the first to celebrate these traditions on this holiday. So I think that, in general, if you're an atheist or an agnostic, celebrate Yule. Like, do a little digging, look into it, come up with your own like traditions, because that's like the beauty of it, is there is no one size fits all. Like, you have to do this thing. Like, sure, you can have a feast or not, you can have a tree or not, you can have a Yule log, which was, the fire that you kept burning, all throughout the darkest night. And you can do those things or not. But again, these traditions predate the Christians. So I say, get on the side with the pagans and celebrate Yule, even if you're not a pagan.
Well, I would just ask people to check out my channel. I've got a short playlist of 4 or 5 videos that are all about Yule.
Oh, cool.
And
Do that.
in particular, there's one called Hold Back the Darkness, which, is a more in-depth, my reflection on the Yule, and a poem I wrote about it many years ago.
Okay. And with that, there is a link to Purple's channel in the description. And if you want to talk to Kitty anymore, her Twitter handle is in the description. And so I would ask that you, make sure that you are subscribed to Purple if you're not. Art Against Ignorance, who did the music for this song, his link is in the description as well. And if you're not subscribed to him, please go subscribe to him as well. What I have coming up this week for a scripted video is Dr. David Jeremiah, who in one of the churches that I attended for a number of years was considered about 2 steps below God, recently put out a movie that he calls Why the Nativity. And so I'm reviewing his movie. And that's where I get into a lot of the silliness of trying to mesh the 2 different Christmas stories together. You have to kind of conveniently leave pieces of it out in order to do that.
And one more thing I would like to plug.
Okay, go ahead.
Is that actually the thing I really got known for in the community is every year I do a Christmas marathon.
Yes.
That we have a bunch of creators each taking like a 2-hour time slot. So we run it like a relay and run for 48 hours. So we're covering every hour of Christmas Day everywhere in the world, so that wherever anybody is, no one has to be alone on the holiday. They've got some place they can hang out with friends. And people also, a lot of people that after having the holiday with their relatives kind of need some place that they can be themselves and vent. So I'm also still looking for some people to help fill time slots for that. So anyone who'd be willing to do a stream, on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, or the day after.
And I will be doing one of those streams myself as well. I don't know exactly when, but I will be doing one of those streams.
I wish that I could commit to a time slot, but what I can say is I can try to pop in on somebody's so that I can, help. But I don't want to commit to a time slot and then have something come up, because again, my life is a chaotic mess right now. And like, I would never want to let anybody down, but just saying, hey, I'll be there, at some point, like, is a lot easier to make happen than to have the responsibility and not be able to do it.
Well, and
I
also
didn't need that Lube bar.
That's going to be very much needed. That whoever's hosting is always going to need some other people on the panel, somebody to talk to keep the conversation going. So that's Jenny Morgan. Doesn't run any streams herself, but she winds up being in almost all of them.
And I'm definitely going to need to ask somebody to come and join me, or I'll end up reading books. I'll run out of material unless there's enough people in the chat to just talk to the people in chat. And that
depending on the day, and time, I should be able to join you. And like, that is one thing. I can talk. I can definitely fill air. Like, that is one of my talents.
Well, I try to participate at least a bit in as many of them as I can. And I always kind of feel bad on the couple I miss, because in 48 hours, I do have to nap for a couple hours somewhere.
Okay. All right. With that, make sure you check out some of Purple's streams. If you get lonely at Christmas, just look for any of the Atheist channels. Somebody is going to be live all the time that you can find someone to come and talk to. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and have us say goodbye, because as soon as this ends, I'm going to end the stream. So
All
bye,
right.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Good night,
Be
all.
well.
Art Against Ignorance has brought this to life as something far more incredible than I could have ever imagined. Also, my original version always felt somewhat unfinished. So again, Art Against Ignorance came in to save it with adding the final verse. He's done several more fantastic songs, so you really should subscribe to his channel. Naturally, the link is in the description below.
Blessed be fine Christian folk, we mean you no dismay. We pagans simply ask you, give us back our holiday. Jesus was being born in spring, so celebrate in May. Kindly give us back our winter holiday, holiday. Kindly give us back our winter holiday. Most common practices from our celebrations you did steal. Imitation, sincere flattery, we're glad they do appeal. But credit our traditions, don't act like such a heel. Kindly give us back our winter holiday, holiday. Kindly give us back our winter holiday. The Yule tree we decorated long before of Christ you'd heard. Acting like you invented it is really quite absurd. Not knowing where it comes from makes you look like such a nerd. Kindly give us back our winter holiday, holiday. Kindly give us back our winter holiday. We turn the wheel of life all year, even in the time of snow. And centuries before you we adorned with mistletoe. Your arrogance annoys us most, it really has to go. Kindly give us back our winter holiday, holiday. Kindly give us back our winter holiday. You can keep the image of Santa Claus, for him we have no need. Invented by commercialism in the spirit of greed. Parents tell this lie to their children, it is most strange indeed. Kindly give us back our winter holiday, holiday. Kindly give us back our winter holiday. 'Tis our observance of the Yuletide you Christians do deface. Trying to wedge in Jesus simply looks so out of place. You're not even knowing when he was born, seems like a disgrace. Kindly give us back our winter holiday, holiday. Kindly give us back our winter